It's exactly 7:15, and if, like me, you are of a certain vintage and you remember television programmes like Steptoe and Son and The Good Old Days, you will be riveted by a new autobiography which provides a link to both of those programmes. It's called When Harry Met Sheila, and it's the autobiography of comedy actress Sheila Steafel, who married the Steptoe and Son star Harry H. Corbett in 1958. Sheila Steafel's long career has seen her play all kinds of characters, from Mistress Quickly in The Merry Wives of Windsor for the RSC, Miss Popsy Wopsy in The Good Old Days, and she's had roles in Minder, Holby City, Billy Liar and Funny Girl. She was also part of the Frost Report team. She worked with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, and she was the first ever female to be part of Radio 4's topical show Weekending. Not surprisingly, she was once crowned the Queen of Comedy, and I've been chatting to her about her book, and I wanted to know first of all whether it had been easy for her to write about her life in such detail.
Well, it's funny, you kind of tap into memory, and generally speaking, I'm very conscious of time, and so I tend to cut things down to the bone. And I discovered while writing that the colouring in was the most important thing, and so you kind of dredge your memory, and it's amazing what stuff comes up to the surface, smells and colours and sounds and all that sort of thing. Actually, writing them down was, for me, tremendously exciting and revealing.
And you had, or it seems to me that you have quite a lot of stuff around you that you can call on to evoke those memories and to make them clearer. For instance, the reviews that you've kept, and I'm very impressed that you've kept even the bad ones, or the not quite so flattering ones.
You can't be discriminating about that. That's not fair. But as I say in the book, bad notices make me laugh so much. In fact, I've just read the book onto audio, and when I got to the bits about reading bad notices, there's one bad notice in particular that is so bad I couldn't read it for laughing.
That's a very healthy attitude.
Oh, I mean, it's wonderfully accurate, you see. It's wonderful. I was absolutely awful and dreadful in this particular thing I did, and deserved the notices I got.
Yes.
But I had a wonderful time doing it. It was an opera, and I was singing an opera.
Clearly, it's something that, as a performer, you don't say no. If you're asked to do something, you don't say no, do you?
Actors will do anything.
Sure.
Absolutely anything. I mean, I learned to dance on point for money.
Oh, until your feet bled.
They actually did bleed. I'd never danced on point before, and I lied. I said I could. But actors do that. And they believe it at the time. I think, I could do that. I can learn to dance on point in 10 days easy.
Yeah, of course.
You forget about the actual doing of it.
But it worked. The thing is, nobody would ever have known.
No.
In the resulting, it was a film, wasn't it?
It was a film, yes, yes.
You are not unfamiliar with Leicester, although I hazard a guess you possibly would be if you came now.
I'm sure it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, I did a tryout of the Diary of Adrian Mole. Yes, Sue Townsend's book. I played his mum. So yes, and I remember I had three dogs with me. I had mother, father and son, and I had a little flat. And I remember the puppy, the young dog, actually, while I was working at the theatre one night when I got back, he'd actually dug a hole in a mattress.
Lovely.
There was fluff and springs everywhere.
Clever. There was a play tryout, How the Other Half Loves. Feels like a classic play now, but
yep.
I mean, obviously it had to have a tryout somewhere, and Leicester was chosen in 1970.
Yeah. How the Other Half Loves was great, but as I say in the book, Alan Ayckbourn, who wrote it, was very cross with me for getting so many laughs.
Yes.
And I had to tone down the laughs, which was frightening. So I did. I just mistimed everything in the first act on the second night. And Hugh Paddock was playing the part that Robert Morley eventually played in the West End. And he was miserable. He came to see me in the dressing room at the interval, and he said, "Stop it, this is terrible." And so I went back and played the way I wanted to. I actually went into it with Robert Morley in the West End eventually. It had been running there quite a long time, and they eventually got me in to play it. And also we went to Toronto with it as well. But by then, Robert Morley was messing about with the script anyway. I mean, he was playing games on the stage and all sorts. And I imagine by that time, Alan Ayckbourn had given up on it.
He probably had enough.
Yeah, he thought, well, if Robert Morley's going to do all that, she might as well go back in and get some laughs.
You were on safer ground with Chekhov and the Three Sisters with Hayley Mills.
Yes. Yeah.
Much safer ground.
That was lovely. That was really, I really, because I love doing straight stuff. I've got a sneaky idea that people who do comedy well do tragedy, for want of a better word, pretty well too, because they can see the other side of it and they bring an extra dimension.
And the early part of the book tells of her marriage to Steptoe and Son star Harry H. Corbett. And I wondered why, when Sheila had accomplished so much in her own career, she'd put Harry's name in the title.
Well, to be honest, there are a couple of reasons for that. It was, of course, an enormous part of my emotional life. But if I'm thoroughly honest, it's also because I've kind of slipped out of the public eye for reasons that only the public eye can tell me. It's called getting older and not being considered for part and all the rest of it. You know, you slip off the carousel.
I know.
But Harry is much more well known than I would ever be. And so it was a wise move to put him on the cover because people will recognise him and be interested in him, I think, before me. So it was a ploy, in a sense.
It kind of worked, it kind of didn't with me, because I have to be truthful, I thought it was a shame, because I would have wanted to know about you.
I don't think there are enough of you, Monica.
It's funny, I've had your book on my desk all morning because I knew I was talking to you,
right.
And the amount of people who've come up and gone, oh, Sheila, what's she doing now?
Yeah, whatever happened to?
Yeah. And that, I mean, I hate to say that because I don't want to be hurtful towards you, but it is a great shame.
Well, thank you. I think so too.
I tell you what, you're still going strong on YouTube. Have you had a look at yourself on as Popsy Wopsy on YouTube?
I didn't know it was there until somebody told me, and yes, I have watched it. They've got quite a lot of hits, I think.
It's adorable. And you know, I showed my husband it yesterday, and he said, he said that's a real talent. And I was about to kind of launch into yes, of course, and he went, no, he said to do it wrong is way harder than doing it right.
Well, yes, it's funny that, because it was harder teaching pianists to accompany me than anything else, because pianists are trained to follow the singer or the performer, and it was essential that they didn't follow me because they had to kind of push me along, and it was very difficult for them, to get every instinct. And eventually, I mean, we didn't use the orchestra. You'll find if you listen to the Popsy, it was just the piano because we couldn't cope with the conducting in the orchestra.
No, exactly.
And all we eventually got was the drum beat when I did a bump or a grind or something. So it was just piano and drums. I think the conductor sat there with his head in his hands.
I'm not at all surprised.
But why did they take it off?
Yeah.
I mean, they had something like 200 people waiting to go and see the show and having made their costumes. The backlog of people who wanted to be in the audience was about 200 or more when they closed the show down.
And it was a real theatre as well, not some television studio
and
anywhere.
It's a real old theatre. It's a genuine musical theatre. Very beautiful, with a lovely atmosphere. The backstage was hideous. Our backstage was just like a loft. Rickety stairs and tiny little dressing rooms and people falling over crinolines and stuff. Yeah.
Sheila Steafel, her autobiography, When Harry Met Sheila, is packed full of showbiz stories, and it gives a real warts and all account of the entertainment industry, so much so that I heartily recommend it to anybody who's about to apply to drama school. However, life for Sheila now is somewhat quieter, and she's made a name for herself as an artist. So I asked her when she had first picked up a paintbrush.
I have always painted pictures and stuff. I did a BA Fine Arts and left halfway through because I wasn't that interested in that. I was much more interested in drama. But I've painted through the year. I have in my hallway a series of self-portraits that started when I was 21. And the last one I did was in 1992. There are about 7 of them. And it's quite interesting.
How brilliant. It's like Dorian Gray in reverse.
It is a bit, yes. I've been putting off since 1992. I keep thinking I must do another one. And I was thinking about it only yesterday, funnily enough. I thought, I read about it. Now, my biggest problem now is I've got arthritis in my hands. And I'm not very good at holding a pen. And I suddenly thought, I wonder if I can still paint. It might end up like a very modern painting.
Yes, yes. It's
Like
lots of angles and things.
it might end up
Yes.
like a Picasso or something.
Yes.
So I'm going to have another go.
Is there a part 2 of the book, do you think, or is this kind of the definitive, Sheila?
I don't think there's a part 2, but I do think taking Claire Rayner's forward into account, where she says I write so well I should write a novel next. I sat down and tried to write a novel, but I haven't got that sort of a mind. But there's quite a lot of stuff that I cut out of the first. Having written it, I actually chopped it out. And so I might convert that into some kind of fiction.
Do you know those stories when you're not allowed to name the people that kind of did whatever they did?
Yes.
Those sorts of stories that hit the cutting room floor the first time round, you could fictionalise them.
I've got lots others.
Really?
Well, you see, I left out all the terrible men I got involved with.
Yes.
And they're all going to recognise themselves, but I'll rename them.
Quite right too.
But on the other hand, in fact, a friend of mine suggested I call the book Bastard.
Genius. That would sell. That would fly off the shelves. Sheila Steafel's Bastard. That's lovely. I don't know whether that's a local radio word or not, but I don't care.
Well, you'll soon find out.
Yes, exactly. When I go to try and broadcast it.
Well, I suppose I'd have to have the cover with a lot of X's and little stars on it, wouldn't I?
Yes, I suppose.
B ... dot, 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 dot,
Yes,
dot.
yes, but we'd all know what every woman in the
would.
country would know what you meant.
Absolutely.
When Harry Met Sheila is the autobiography of Sheila Steafel. It's not available in shops. However, it is available to order online from any of the usual places that you go online and order your stuff from, or you can go into any bookshop and ask them to order your copy. As I say, heartily recommend it because it's packed full of stories. And she was an absolute hoot that afternoon.